This seems like the end of Anthony Pettis, the nail in the coffin. He just got submitted by Stevie Ray, of all people. And yeah, you heard that right. Stevie Ray submitted Anthony Pettis with a modified body triangle, something I thought I would never say in my entire life. And a lot of people are putting comparisons to when Dustin beat Anthony Pettis, having a similar kind of body triangle, but there's different context to this. Dustin was beating Anthony Pettis using offensive wrestling, which is Pettis' biggest weakness. It's always been. If you want to beat Pettis, you push him back, you wrestle a lot. There's not too much he can really do to you. With Stevie Ray, Pettis took this guy down and completely botched the entire Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu exchanges. And it's so strange to watch Pettis kind of just lay down there and allow Stevie Ray to just transition on him. Anthony Pettis may have followed the same path of Johnny Hendricks, Renan Barão, Cody Garbrandt as some of the biggest falls from grace in MMA history. Pettis has been on a downslope for a while. He has a negative record in PFL. Ever since he became a champion, he's been on a negative record all the way through. He hasn't stringed more than 2 wins in a row. And now losing by this fashion, like tonight, it's just gonna go further and further downhill. I mean, we're not talking about someone who's like young, up and coming, a great grappler. We're talking about Stevie Ray, who's pretty much like the same generation as Anthony Pettis. He's almost the same age as him. He's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and has not won by a submission since 2014, and he hasn't really submitted anybody of this caliber. And Pettis has always been phenomenal on the ground. The guy submitted Charles Oliveira, Benson Henderson in his prime, Michael Chiesa, and Gilbert Melendez. The guy has insane submission ability, and yeah, he's been submitted here and there by guys like Dustin Poirier, a great grappler, Diego Ferreira, a monster at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. No way he was going to match up to that. But the Stevie Ray, that's kind of crazy, man, and really sad knowing what Anthony Pettis used to be. People were regarding him as the next big thing in the sport, the huge superstar that people have been waiting for. A guy who has the look, the fighting style, he goes for finishes, he's super exciting, jumping off the cage and stuff, and winning consistently against the top fighters in the world. People thought this is it. This is the guy. He was in all the commercials, even on the Wheaties box, which was such a big deal. And ever since all this stuff came to him, all this success, it just got shrouded in darkness for the most part. I mean, he had some good wins like the Wonderboy Thompson win, which a lot of people think was a fluke. And looking at the way he's performing right after that fight, like immediately afterward, it might have been. Out of 10 fights, Pettis probably wins twice, 3 times, and that fight might have been the only time we see him win. And his record, ever since the Wheaties box, has been 8-11. So it might be some kind of curse, man. You go on these commercials all the time, you go on the Wheaties box, you are dooming yourself in the future. But actually what it might be is a difference in motivation and focus. When certain people succeed, they tend to become a lot more relaxed and not have the same hunger as they used to, and that might have happened to Anthony Pettis along the way. Look at the PFL for an example, botching fights left and right and losing these because the guy's already rich, the guy's very successful, he's involved in multiple different businesses and stuff. It seems like he doesn't need to fight to make money anymore, and if you look at some of the stuff that he says, he in fact states that making money is his biggest hobby. So that kind of tells you the mental state that he might be at. He makes a lot of money, he doesn't need to fight to make money, and ultimately he has his mind in different places. Now, I honestly think another big reason to this is Pettis never really adapted his style. He never really added new things to his game, did some new stuff out there. He's always been the same fighter ever since the beginning, and he just kind of fine-tuned some things. The only other time where he showed a big addition was his counterboxing against Gilbert Melendez, and maybe some of his offensive wrestling later as he was losing fights, but never really changed a whole lot, never really got a whole lot better in any area, and it shows you the importance of evolving with the sport. I mean, the guy's had one weakness his whole career. Pressure wrestlers. Clay Guida showed it to everybody. And fighters have been beating him the same way Guida did back in 2011. If you cannot fix your weakness for the past 11 years, it's going to be about time where you cannot compete with the sport anymore. And I don't know if it's about his gym, I don't know if it's just mentality. I don't know if he just wants to be exciting and stuff. Because another thing about Pettis that he talked about before when he was going on losing streaks was that he said he tried to become a wrestler. He tried to add the wrestling part to his game, and that took him away from what he did best, because when he's wrestling, he's not focused on his own striking, on his own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff. So he got caught in between trying not to lose that badly and putting on exciting performances, when those two things are not exclusive. He should be able to do all of that together as a mixed martial artist. But it seems like being a mixed martial artist to that extent, to become well-rounded and use everything together, was the biggest weakness in Anthony Pettis' mentality. And who knows what's going in his head in PFL regarding this. Is he trying to wrestle more? Is he trying to strike more? Because against Stevie Ray, he attempted a takedown, something he doesn't normally do. At least he said he won't do that much anymore. and he did it against Stevie Ray. Perhaps because of that mental block. His mind was not on the jiu-jitsu, it was more on the wrestling and trying to just secure a win. When even on the feet, he should be more than capable of beating Stevie Ray. When Anthony Pettis signed with PFL, people expected him to dominate most of his peers, but it seems like the guy's been vaxxed from winning. And man, it's so disappointing because personally for me, when I first watched Anthony Pettis over there in WEC, the guy was always looking special. He came into the UFC, had one bad fight against Clay Guida, but then over time was accumulating all these big wins. I mean, KOing Joe Lozon the way he did, such a huge head kick, body kicking Donald Cerrone, who at the time was one of the top contenders. That armbar he got on Benson Henderson was so unique. Like a double armbar to the point where Henderson could not tap to the ref. He had to vocalize it, showing his counter boxing against Gilbert Melendez, where a lot of people thought if Melendez was going to have some sort of advantage, it would be with his pressure and his boxing. Seeing Pettis catching him with those left hooks and then getting him in the guillotine, it looked like nobody was going to beat Anthony Pettis. And now the guy just can barely get a win. This is the importance of adapting with the game and getting better, or you're just going to get left behind. Whether that's the main reason for Pettis' downfall or not, it is one of the biggest downfalls in MMA history.